Oh, more from Scotland. Wow. Great. Okay, so we'll begin slowly. So you're going to get a lot of value from this masterclass today. If any of the following sound like you, you've tried everything to manage your symptoms, supplements, diets, therapy, maybe even medication. Maybe the medication doesn't work well with you, but nothing ever really works long-term for you. And you dread those 2 weeks out of every month, and then you spend the other half of the month recovering. It's affecting your work, your relationships, and your sense of self. And you feel like no one really understands what's going on with you, not your doctor, not your partner, and sometimes not even you. And you've started to wonder if PMDD isn't just hormonal, but something deeper. If even one of those feels familiar, you are 100% in the right place. What I'm going to show you today isn't just theory, it's a proven approach that I have used with hundreds of women worldwide who were sick of living, who were completely exhausted, who were stuck in loops of depression and rage and anxiety, and they finally got free. So grab a pen and a journal, because I promise there will be a moment today that resonates so deeply in your body, it feels like a deep knowing, it feels like your truth, and I don't want you to miss that. The ideas we're going to explore in this masterclass aren't what you'll hear in the mainstream. In fact, what you've probably been told about your symptoms and PMDD is that they're caused by a chemical imbalance, your genetics, or just the way your brain is wired. And so the solution you've likely been offered is another birth control pill, another SSRI, an antidepressant, or the suggestion that you should just learn to manage your symptoms. But what if I told you that's not the full story? What if I told you your body is actually manifesting the only thing it can from the subconscious blueprint it acquired in its formative years? What if the symptoms you've been battling with monthly, the chaos, the emotional intensity, the breakdowns, aren't just biological, but are deeply linked to the subconscious programming that was formed long before you ever had PMDD? What if I told you that your biology, your physiology, your nervous system, your biochemistry, your genes are processes that are actually heavily directed by your subconscious programming? In this masterclass, I'm going to show you something totally different, something you've probably never heard before, and it's so powerful. And I'm going to be walking you through the hidden beliefs and the unresolved emotional wounds that silently drive your symptoms, and how by shifting those patterns at a subconscious level, everything begins to change. This is about healing at the root, not masking, not coping, but true embodied transformation, physically, mentally, and spiritually. The goal of our time together is to help you get to the root of your symptoms and finally understand why what you've tried hasn't worked and what actually will work. By the end of this session, my hope is that you'll not only feel more clarity and more validation, but a deep knowing that healing is possible, not just symptom management, but real freedom. Now, here's the thing, we've only got a short time together. I'm going to do my best to give you everything in 90 minutes. I'm going to give you as much value as I possibly can. And I'll also share at the end where you can go deeper with this work if this really resonates with you. My small ask is that you feel into your body for what truly resonates and you stay open to what lands. When I share something that hits home, I'd love for you to type the word truth into the chat or just an emoji or something, and write it down in your notes. This isn't just a class, this is a healing conversation. You're going to feel extremely validated, and the more present you are, the more connected we are, and the more transformation you'll receive. So please turn off any distractions, be present in your body, use your breath to anchor you back to yourself, and just feel for the truth in your body, the knowing, the resonance. Is that a deal? Just a small ask. Okay, and before we dive in, I want to let you know that I do have a gift for those of you who stay until the end. It's not something you can download this time, it's something that you will experience. I'm going to be guiding you through a powerful live group hypnosis session to help you begin releasing the emotional and physiological grip that your symptoms have on you. This isn't just a relaxation, it's a glimpse into the kind of subconscious work, the inner child work, that changes everything at a subconscious level in hypnotic brain space. So if you've ever wondered what healing at the root actually feels like, stay with me and we'll do a little bit of that at the end. We'll be doing it together live, and no worries, you don't need to have had any experience with hypnosis. Just bring your breath, your body, and your heart, and be open to receiving the love that is going to land in you. And I will guide you through the rest. So this is probably your reality, the truth. Every month you're hit by a wave of emotional chaos that feels impossible to predict or control. One half of the month is spent surviving, and the other half of the month you're trying to recover from it. Some days you find yourself raging at your kids, your partner, or shutting down completely in freeze response. You're hijacked by intrusive thoughts, deep self-hatred, and punishing self-talk. You isolate not because you want to, but because you don't trust yourself to stay in control around others. And in your relationships, you're probably asking yourself, is it me or is it them? Well, I'm here to tell you that you're not broken, but you've probably been made to feel like you are. What I want for you by the end of this session is for you to leave with a deeper understanding of yourself, not just your symptoms, but the subconscious patterns underneath them. I want you to feel that quiet spark of possibility again, that your life doesn't have to look like this forever. I want you to be able to meet yourself with compassion and forgiveness, because no, this is not your fault, but you do have a choice now. And I want you to feel confident in your next steps, knowing that you have the power to rewrite the story that your body has been trying to tell, the only story it could tell with the programming it acquired in your formative years. Who here resonates with that? If even one part of this resonates with you, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Great. So let me quickly introduce myself in case we haven't met before. This is me and my 3 little monkeys. I'm a solo mum. I live on the Mediterranean island of Mallorca. I'm a rapid transformational hypnotherapist. I'm a PMDD and perimenopause trauma specialist, and I'm also a narcissistic abuse specialist. I am the founder of Wounds into Wings, a high-touch transformational program designed specifically for women who are ready to break free from depression, anxiety, and hormonal mood disorders that keep them feeling trapped, broken, or emotionally hijacked each month. My background is in medicine and dentistry. I spent over a decade in academic and clinical training, but after facing my own emotional collapse, I realized that true healing doesn't come from symptom management. It comes from getting to the subconscious root. So my work focuses on helping women uncover the childhood wounds, relational patterns, and survival beliefs that are keeping their nervous system stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, and guiding them back to wholeness, health, and happiness. And I created this work because it saved me. And now I get to walk other women worldwide through that same journey, one that rewrites their story completely. So a few years ago, I was laying in my yellow hammock under my lemon tree with my babies playing beside me, and I was scrolling through YouTube, studying the subconscious mind and the law of attraction, because I had just come through years of heartbreak. I'd carried my 3rd child alone because their father had absconded with a girl from work half his age and had started a business with her. And I just felt totally discarded. Not long after that, he then stopped child support. So I went down this rabbit hole of the law of attraction and learning about the subconscious mind, and it just lit me up like nothing I'd ever studied before. So there I was, completely alone with 3 children under 2.5, no financial help, no support, just me and a mountain of responsibility and a broken heart. But I'd made a decision already by this point. I somehow had to become the best version of myself because my children only had me. And I refused to let them grow up believing that they weren't enough for him to stick around. I just couldn't let my pain, become their programming. So I had already decided that I somehow needed to be enough for them. And that led me down this rabbit hole of studying the subconscious mind and the law of attraction, because I knew the only way out of this wasn't through more struggle, It was through completely rewiring the way I thought, the way I felt and believed. So I'd spent 11 years at university, medical school, then dental school. I was academically trained and credentialed, but completely lost and broken. I knew I couldn't work in a clinic full time because my children needed me. They only had me. So there I was, and I felt so purposeless, like the other woman was now his business partner and I was the one just discarded. So there I was, laying in my yellow hammock, my favorite place to be. And I was just contemplating the teachings of a YouTube video on the subconscious mind and the law of attraction, and building my faith in that everything was going to be okay. I didn't know how. I didn't know how my life was going to unfold, but I knew that I had a choice to hang on to the belief that everything would be okay, and then that the universe would mirror that somehow. I just had to choose to believe that there was an amazing plan for us, not because I could see it yet by any means, but because that belief was my only chance, holding on to that faith that something good could come from all of this. This was the one thing I could control. And looking back, I can see how deeply I'd been shaped by my beliefs, actually, that weren't even mine. I'd wanted to be a plastic surgeon in my 20s because I thought back then I thought happiness came from helping people like how they looked. Then I chose dentistry because I had such a severe phobia of dentists as a child. I never wanted anyone to go through that pain, that fear that I went through. And so I wanted to serve people in a different way. But, the truth was that I'd grown up hearing my dad say, you'll be a doctor, you'll be a lawyer. And I now realized that I was chasing this need to be significant, this need to belong through the only way I could have known. So my desire really is to free people from pain. That was always there. I just couldn't see it because of the old programs. And I'd been playing within the limits of someone else's programming, really, who had fears of failure, I guess. My parents, they were doing the best they could, but it's the old paradigm way. And I hadn't been allowed to feel into my real purpose yet. So it was in that exact moment, in that yellow hammock, that video ended and this advert for rapid transformational therapy started. It started playing. And I don't know if you know Marissa Peer, the founder of rapid transformational therapy. She was talking about the subconscious root healing and how RTT was helping people heal physical and emotional disease. And then she said something that just stopped me cold. She said, RTT is like going to the dentist. You don't leave the clinic with the pain still in place. You extract the pain at the root. And she went on to say how it was perfect for women with kids and animals, that you could work around your family. And it just hit me like lightning. This was it. This was what I was born to do. So I applied on the spot and went through the interview process and got accepted. And as I began my training, everything started to make sense. It was like the missing piece of the puzzle for me, root cause medicine, as I call it. So it was during that training that I first learned about PMDD. I'd never even heard of it. Imagine that, with all those years of training. And yet I realized I'd been living with it since the onset of my period at 14, because at 14, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and polycystic ovaries. At 17, I was diagnosed with depression and put on antidepressants. And I just didn't want to be here anymore. But now I finally had the language that for what I'd been living through, this cyclical emotional hijacking, because I actually thought I must be bipolar because I was okay for some days, for half the month. And I just felt that I suddenly had this clarity. And most importantly, I had the tools to heal. And it was through RTT and this amazing subconscious programming that I didn't just feel better, but I became someone new. And my symptoms vanished, my nervous system reshaped itself, and I began rebuilding a life I never dreamt would be possible for me. But I did it from the inside out. And I still remember sitting in that doctor's office at 17, being told I had a chemical imbalance, that I needed to take antidepressants for the rest of my life. And I took that on. I took it on as a belief. And later in medical school, we were taught that serotonin model, the idea that depression is caused by a lack of serotonin in the brain. It was presented to us as fact, but what I now know is that it was just a hypothesis, and one that was never actually proven. And it left out the most important piece of the puzzle, because the truth is, our emotional and physical symptoms are not just about brain chemistry or genetics. They're about the subconscious programming we inherit from childhood. from trauma, from the environment we grow up in, that we're adapting to all the time. Our programming shapes how our body functions at every level. Those subconscious beliefs send signals through the nervous system. They influence hormone production. They activate genes. They deactivate genes. They shape how we respond to stress and how much of it our body holds on to. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. Our emotional and physical symptoms like PMDD, like depression and anxiety, are not just hormonal or genetic. They're deeply rooted in the subconscious beliefs we picked up in childhood and through trauma. My big realization through all of this, and in my experience with working with hundreds of women, is that healing the subconscious is the single most powerful way to change your emotional and physical reality. The subconscious beliefs we hold, often formed in childhood or through trauma, don't just influence how we think or how we feel, they shape how our body functions. They drive the hormonal cycles, the inflammation, and the emotional storms. They wire our nervous system to either keep us in survival or allow us to thrive. And when you transform the subconscious blueprint that's been driving these symptoms, everything begins to change. So let's begin with the first concept I want to share with you, one that underpins everything you're going to learn today, and that is beliefs shape biology. And what I mean by that is the subconscious beliefs you've picked up don't just shape how you think, they shape how your body functions. They influence your hormones, your nervous system, and your gene expression, and they become the invisible blueprint for how your system functions. We are forming beliefs from the second trimester in the womb. That's the science. I believe it's much earlier. And 95% of your beliefs are acquired by the time you're 7 years old. And when you're that age, you don't even have critical factor, the fully formed conscious mind, to filter anything out. You're just making conclusions, and they're often misperceptions of a child. And, you know, our beliefs then create our perception, the lenses through which we see ourselves and through which we see the world, how safe it is. And we come into this world as dependent, helpless beings. We rely upon connection to our caregivers to survive. And so it is vital that we lock into how best to stay safe by laying down beliefs all the time, adapting in order to stay connected to our tribe for survival. And this is what we do in moments of cognitive dissonance, in moments of confusion, because we don't feel safe. We make experiences mean something about us by laying down beliefs that then stay in the subconscious until we upgrade them. And guess what? We're upgrading our telephones and our computers all the time of its software. How often are we upgrading the subconscious programming that we mostly acquired before we were even 7 years old? And it's really important for you to understand this. The subconscious mind has one job. The one job that it has is to keep you alive by keeping you safe, by keeping you connected. That's what it means. Keeping you connected to your adult caregivers, because you can't survive without them. So this often means keeping you small and abandoning yourself at a deep unconscious level. So if the mind's only job is to keep you safe in the only adaptive way it knows, in a very primitive way, and its job is not to make you happy or healthy or successful, it's to move you away from the pain of rejection from your tribe. And it will keep you stuck in these same familiar patterns because the mind loves the familiar. It hates the unfamiliar. It fears the unfamiliar. The mind loves the familiar because it hasn't killed you yet. And you can see this play out in your relationships. So you might be magnetized to emotionally and unavailable partners because it feels familiar if we had an emotionally unavailable parent. So familiar equals safe to this tribal unconscious mind. It really fears the unfamiliar. There's no data, there's no history, there's no data history for the unknown. It's unpredictable, and therefore it could be dangerous. So you see, this is the autopilot that we're running on. So we lay down 95% of our programming by the time we're 7, and this programming is what someone's writing on the slide. I don't know how to stop that. This then determines the activation of your stress responses. And this is what is really important, because your stress responses they're wonderfully innate life-saving responses when you're in danger, fight and flight, for running away from danger or fighting danger, and then the ultimate freeze response. And they create the biology of courage. When you find yourself in a dangerous situation, they are working for you. But when we don't understand that, we start to fear those sensations with this frontal cortex that we have. We start to judge the sensations and we start to fear them because we don't understand them. Well, today you're going to understand them. And how these stress responses, they're not supposed to be chronically activated the way society has normalized, and then we just give people a pill. It's damaging to certain systems. It creates disease. And this is where we need to do the work at the subconscious level to change the perception so that we're not detecting danger, so that our system doesn't activate a stress response when we don't need it, when we're worrying about what somebody thinks about us, right? So imagine the biology required for the flight response when you're running for your life, right? You need blood and nutrients to be prioritized to your muscles, to the skin for temperature regulation, to your heart and lungs. And this occurs at the expense of other systems like your digestive system, like your reproductive system, that are not required when you're fighting or fleeing from danger. So what happens when these stress responses are on for long periods of time? It creates disorder in the systems, leading to things like IBS, polycystic ovaries, endometriosis, fertility issues. Does this make sense? Are you with me? Lots of truth. Oh, lovely comments I'm getting. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I want to get as much in as possible for you. Now, I want to talk about your stress responses, because you will refer to these as anxiety or hypervigilance. Oh, great, it's resonating. Rage is fight, hypervigilance and anxiety is flight, depression and dissociation is freeze. And that's probably how you've interpreted them so far. And then we judge ourselves, but I want you to understand what's happening at a deeper level, because understanding is power. So let's say in a situation where you don't feel enough, you feel that someone is judging you, and you perceive that you could be judged and an outcast. Your nervous system is then activated, working for you, creating the biology of courage according to the programming it has picked up until now, mostly in your formative years. So when your nervous system is activated, the stress hormone like cortisol then affects a whole cascade of physiological reactions for the biological needs required for running from danger or fighting danger. So as we said, the nutrients and the oxygenated blood are prioritized to the muscles, the heart and the lungs at the expense of systems like your digestion, your sex organs that are just not required in survival mode. So your fight or flight symptoms include rage and anxiety and the urge to run for the hills. And once we reach our threshold of that fight or flight response, our nervous system then moves us into the ultimate survival response, that is freeze. So imagine an animal playing dead. This is shut down. This manifests as symptoms such as chronic fatigue, clinical depression, dissociation, procrastination, lack of motivation. And these stress responses, they're wonderful, innate, life-saving responses. They're working for you. However, these stress responses are not supposed to be chronically activated the way we have got used to as a society. And the reason they are is because of these beliefs that we've picked up about ourselves. And that's where we need to do the work to bring safety back to the body. So I want to take a moment here to speak about trauma, because half the women I work with wouldn't say they'd experienced childhood trauma. And that's something I hear a lot. I had a great childhood, they'll say. Well, until they do this deep inner work, that is, they don't really understand the impact of events in their life. So I know some of you here will have experienced horrendous things, traumatic events that no one should ever have to go through. I acknowledge you, and I am here to tell you that through this work, you get to take your power back. You get to go back in time and change the meaning that you made about yourself in those moments. And now I want to speak to those that can't see how their childhood was significantly traumatic enough to cause such horrendous disease. When I was diagnosed with depression, people used to say to me, "What have you got to be depressed about?" And that just made me feel even worse. I didn't know. How could I know? If I knew with my conscious mind why I was depressed, I would have fixed it by now and I wouldn't be suffering with it. So all of my trauma was coming from my parents' messy divorce, my parents' emotional immaturity, my parents' own anxieties, their own childhood traumas, and the old paradigm way of parenting. And I was a sensitive child. And looking back, both my sister and I were in freeze response from a very early age. So I want to say to you, trauma isn't just what happened to you, it's what should have happened to you and didn't happen to you, like being loved unconditionally, like being attuned to, like knowing that what you want matters. So you won't often hear me talk about big T trauma and little t trauma because, for one, trauma is what occurs in your body as a result of an external event. And how can we judge a person's capacity to endure a traumatic event? I just prefer to differentiate trauma in this way: the things that happen to you that should never happen to anyone, and the things that didn't happen to you that should have happened to you, like having your needs met. I see so many people out there saying, "I think this is genetic," or "PMDD runs in my family. My mum had it." Well, guess what? Your parents had trauma too. And with their behavior towards you, they just passed on those trauma imprints to you. And I want to say this clearly. Yes, there may be a genetic component, but it's not what you think. What's passed down is your sensitivity. Research shows that 1 in 5, and I think it's more, 1 in 5 of the population carries what's known as the highly sensitive person's gene. Actually, there's been studies in over 100 species, even fruit flies. 1 in 5 fruit flies are highly sensitive fruit flies. And this just means that your nervous system is more responsive, more attuned. It's a beautiful trait to have. And this is why many of the women I work with are the carers of society, the empaths, the intuitives, the doctors, the nurses, the homemakers, the therapists, the artists, because we are the deep thinkers. We process things deeply into our nervous system. And this means that we are more susceptible to trauma, more susceptible to stress or lack of safety in childhood. You feel things more deeply and you process the world more intensely. And I'd say most of the women I've worked with PMDD are highly sensitive people. And I think just knowing that is really validating. When someone with that kind of sensitivity grows up in an environment that's where their parents are emotionally unavailable, or they're critical, or it's a chaotic household, or they're just emotionally absent, that sensitivity turns inwards, because instead of being the gift that it is, it starts to feel like a curse. You know, as a child, you might have been told that you were too sensitive, that you were too emotional, that you were too intense, or like me, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. You just weren't attuned to, you weren't understood, you weren't seen. And because of that, you likely internalized a deep belief that there was something innately wrong with you. And we're going to talk about those beliefs a bit later. And that's what we call self-abandonment. And it happens subconsciously and it becomes a survival strategy. But here's what I want you to know. Your sensitivity isn't by any means your weakness. It is your absolute superpower. It's the part of you that's capable of deep healing, emotional intelligence, deep connection to source with your intuition. And when we reprogram the subconscious beliefs that you formed around your sensitivity and yourself, you'll start to understand your system and everything begins to change. And you go from just surviving to self-mastery. You go from chaos to calm, from feeling broken to deeply secure and whole. And that's why we start with this principle that is beliefs shape biology, because when you change what you believe about yourself and at a deep subconscious level, and how safe it is to be you in this world, your entire physiology shifts to match this belief. So, as I said, when I was 14, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue because they just didn't know what was wrong with me. And all I wanted to do was sleep my life away. And then at 17, the clinical depression diagnosis. I just didn't want to be here. I felt like a burden. I thought everybody would be better off without me. I'd already been written off as faulty. The doctor told me I had a chemical imbalance, and that I just took on that belief. And I used to take off 1 to 2 weeks of school in my teens around my period. And I remember my mum always referring to my period as the curse. And I just find that really interesting that nobody taught us back then that we have different needs that we need to honor at different seasons of the month. And I just find it incredible that we as women have been programmed from such a young age to really abandon ourselves at this fundamental level, at just our innate cyclical way of being. And now I'm going to share with you a bit more about your cycle so that you can understand your innate power as the wonderful cyclical being that you are. That's what I want for all of us. So what happens with PMDD is that with this shift in hormones that occurs mid-cycle, leading to the luteal phase, we have access to this deep introspection and self-assessment mode. And we come very close and personal with the pain of our past, any unresolved trauma, any limiting beliefs. It feels like living hell. They just come to the surface and we are losing our mind. The hormones just act like a truth serum where all the pain of your past, all the malignant mutations in your belief system come to the surface. And it is like the veil is lifted on anything still in need of root cause resolution. Is this making sense? Good. Let me explain about the different seasons of the month briefly, because I didn't really know this until I started to do the work that I do. So when you heal the subconscious root of your symptoms and the monthly veil is lifted, there are no open wounds for grains of salt to go into and sting. Like life always challenges us. That's life's job, to challenge us, right? But when you heal at a subconscious level, we heal those wounds. We timestamp them into the amygdala rather than keeping them alive in the body. And then when life challenges hit you, you're no longer hijacked by old programming. When the veil is lifted, when the shift in hormones occurs, there's nothing to come to the surface anymore. So normally, without PMDD, your cycle would look like this. Spring, pre-ovulation, the energy is just returning after your previous period and you're pacing yourself. You need to be compassionate to yourself. Then summer, it's ovulation. This is your most outward focused phase. Your confidence and energy is at its peak. You're more sociable, you're productive, and you're available for intimacy. Then we drop into the autumn, which is the luteal phase. This is where your sensitivity heightens. Your inner critic might emerge, and you just need space to process your emotions and honor what is not working in your life. This is the self-assessment mode. Then you drop into winter, that's menstruation, where you do require deep rest and solitude. You need to be reflective. It's a time of renewal. And this is where your intuition is at its strongest, but your energy is at its lowest. So as women premenstrually, we will be shown any subconscious glitches, any limiting beliefs from our past, any trauma imprints still in need of resolution in order for our next level of expansion into the life that our soul is desiring. I just find this really magical. I think it's amazing. So we don't need to learn to live with the curse as I heard growing up. We need to get curious about what's coming up for us and know that it's our next level of growth, that there's unconscious stuff wanting to be alchemized. And it's the same with the perimenopause, right? Because the perimenopause is the autumn of our fertile life. So our sensitivity is going to heighten. We need space to process our emotions and honor what's not working in our life. We need to look at the programs that have been keeping us playing small. And we really need to transform the root of our symptoms. They're screaming out to be looked at. And here we can be called to really level up big time in the perimenopause if we've been denying ourselves the life that our soul is truly meant for. So let's just pause for a moment, because I want to know what you're choosing to believe now that you have all of this information, now that you're allowing this to land, and I think it's resonating. Do you believe that you're innately faulty and powerless, or are you choosing to believe that there must be more to this life, that you're meant for more, that you have the power to transform your health and well-being? Type the word truth. Yes, truth serum. Yes. Yeah, I'm meant for more. Yeah, I always had that feeling there must be more to this life. There must be. And now I really see PMDD as a calling to really step into that next level version of you. Great. Yeah, you need your purpose back. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is what happens when you transform the root of your subconscious beliefs. So many women I work with are then just falling into their purpose work. It's quite incredible, but of course it makes sense. You know, they let go of toxic relationships, that they find their purpose work because the limiting belief, the trauma imprints, wasn't allowing them to see or step into that version of themselves. So the mind learns in two ways, by the way. It learns by repetition and by hypnosis. Children are actually in hypnosis. They're in a hypnotic brain state. So what better way to heal and change your childhood programs than in hypnosis? Just going back to the same brain state in which we acquired these misperceptions of ourselves. So RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy, is a specialized form of hypnosis that involves regression, inner child work, parts work, and other powerful reframing techniques. In effect, in this 2-hour session, I guide you and you go, it's like going back in time and really understanding how the child felt, but with your adult eyes, because the conscious mind changes the meaning of things over time. And with this work, you really get to understand how that child felt when that imprint was made. So we do this 2-hour root cause resolution, go to the root of the symptom, and your brilliant subconscious mind will just show you 3 or 4 scenes, and we do all of the root cause resolution in the session. And then what will happen after that session is that you will go away with a recording that you must listen to. It's just a 15-minute recording pertinent to that session with the new empowering beliefs for optimal neuroplastic change. And you listen to that for like 21 to 30 days. So the root cause resolution already occurs in the 2-hour session. We're just laying down new beliefs continuously over the next 3 or 4 weeks by this daily repetition, because remember, the mind learns by repetition and by hypnosis. So we are going at it from both ways here. So having done hundreds of sessions, you start to see a pattern of common beliefs beneath each symptom. And that's what I want to share with you today. So when you feel, if I say a belief and it resonates in your body, just write it down, because then I can tell you how to then reframe it. So let's go deeper into the types of beliefs you might have picked up at an unconscious level that are hiding beneath your symptoms. And yeah, as you feel the resonance of any similar wounding, just jot them down. And then when you've got a list of beliefs after the session, I want you to just look at those, cross them out, cross one out at a time, and go, well, that's a bullshit belief, because the truth about me is, and write the new opposite empowering belief next to it. And you're going to say that to yourself every day. You're going to put post-its on your bathroom mirror, on your fridge, with those new empowering beliefs, and you're going to start wiring them in. I'll never be good enough is a very common belief. It doesn't matter what I do, I'll never be good enough. Yeah. Did I say it's 2 hours? It's hopefully going to be 90 minutes. I'm doing my best to get through in 90 minutes. So the first symptom I want to talk about is rage and anger, because I think we create a lot of shame around this symptom. And it's a very common symptom of PMDD. And with that, I'll say that there is a portion of you that doesn't experience rage because you maybe internalize it. You probably learned as a child that it wasn't safe to express your anger, which is detrimental to your physiology. This is a big cause of autoimmune diseases, internalized anger. So it may be that you were programmed to know it wasn't safe to express your anger, or it may be that your system just moves you straight into freeze response. We'll talk about that shortly. So the symptoms we're focusing on now are anger, rage, jealousy, emotional volatility. And the core beliefs beneath rage really are: what I want doesn't matter, or my needs don't matter. I have no choice in my life. I have no control over my life. I'm trapped, right? Because children don't have very much choice. I'm not understood. I'm not heard. I don't matter. I'm not worthy of having my needs met. So I'm going to give you an example of a scene this one's come up a couple of times, actually, being stuck in a car. It came up for me, and it's come up with 2 or 3 other women I've worked with as a child, being stuck in a car with a parent who is either slagging off the other parent, talking badly about the other parent. You're trapped in this car and you love both parents equally, and you're like in this tug of war, and it's like you can't get out. You're having to hear it, you're having to listen to this, and it is paining you because you love that other parent, right? That child is forming beliefs that, oh, what I want doesn't matter, my feelings don't matter. And these leave these lasting beliefs that are creating your perception. Another really common scene that comes up for rage and anger is children who were moved around a lot. So children who moved states or moved country against their will, without any choice. They moved schools without any consideration. And it's like, what I want doesn't matter. Like I just don't matter. My feelings don't matter. And I have no choice. Or maybe you grew up with an angry parent, and the mirror neurons will just mirror that. So we need to reprogram a new way of being. So the rage is acting as a protector part. It's a protector part because of these beliefs that you have. It has to come out and speak up for you, because you're believing at a subconscious root that you don't matter, that what you want doesn't matter, that you're not heard, that you're not understood. So the rage is just a protector part, which doesn't need to be there once you've transformed the subconscious roots it's protecting. I'm going to introduce you to beautiful Rochelle, who I worked with 2.5 years ago. She was really at her limit, just hanging on. From the onset of her period as a teenager, she could see that she'd had PMDD and depression and anxiety and irrational fears. And she came to me with she was stressed about the relationship issue. Like, she was suffering with a lot of jealousy. But she had severe depression. She had 2 children two daughters who she just felt like they weren't safe in their own home because of her rage. So she was eventually diagnosed with PMDD at 33 after many misdiagnoses. And she tried everything, and her symptoms just continued to worsen over the years, because they will get worse because they're trying to get your attention. Her coping strategies, she did say, had improved, but here she was at 45 when she came to me 2 years ago. And the impact on her life I mean, it was horrendous because on day 14, she already started with anxiety and irritability. By day 17, she felt crazy. Then she would drop into a deep depression. And sometimes she wouldn't come out of this depression until day 5. And actually, some months she didn't even have any good days. So for the first RTT session, she wanted to focus on the root of the jealousy. Because she'd already come out of a narcissistic marriage and she didn't want to lose this relationship. So she regressed back to scenes of being around 7 years old, and her parents were talking at the dining table and she just wanted her dad to give her some attention, but it was like this feeling of, he doesn't see me, so I must not be as wonderful as I thought. And she just felt so sad and disappointed and excluded and crushed and invisible and insignificant. These are all the beliefs that she's laying down. Well, if my dad doesn't notice me, I must be insignificant. I must be unworthy. What I want and what I need is just not available to me. It doesn't matter what I do. I'll never be enough. I'm not pretty enough. You see, all of these beliefs that were totally unconscious. And this was what was running the show. And she decided, as this 7-year-old, I should just close the door and expecting to be loved, expecting to be significant. I want it. I'm not getting it. It hurts. And do you know what? It's less painful to just disconnect and be in my own head. That was her coping mechanism as a 7-year-old. If my dad doesn't think I'm pretty enough to notice me, then it must mean that I'm not pretty enough to hold the attention of a man. To hold, like, she just took on the belief that love and care and compassion is not available to me. And we did all the relevant inner child work using all those amazing reframing tools and changed the meaning she'd made about herself and the world that she lived in. And because she believed it wasn't available to her, she was accepting breadcrumbs of love in her adult relationships. And because she felt this feeling of abandonment and unworthiness, she wasn't able to discern that she was actually in a toxic relationship. Again, she was actually blaming herself. She was blaming her PMDD. Then for the second session, because we do 2 sessions normally, we went to the root cause of the anger, and she went back to scenes of being 12 years old, being severely bullied, physically abused by the boys in her class, punched, and just feeling unprotected, feeling that doesn't matter what I need, it doesn't matter what I want, it doesn't matter what I do, I don't matter. And she just felt trapped. She felt powerless. And then she went on to another scene in that session where her dad, she'd just moved in with her dad because of something with her mum. And her dad had a cat, knowing that she was allergic. And this, as a young girl, now I'm living with my dad. He knows I'm allergic to cats, and he has this cat. The cat's more important to me. This must mean I don't matter. What I want doesn't matter. What I need doesn't matter, and it's not available to me. And that must mean I'm not important. So you can see the importance of this subconscious programming in shifting her clarity on her relationship and how this is the result. Let me show you. After the first session, she complete disappearance of the debilitating depression and suicidal ideation, no longer identifying with PMDD or depression. And she had a dramatic shift in her emotional regulation and mood stability. And she said, this was a comment that she put on my Facebook, actually, when someone had put a nice comment about their treatment. And she said, I had the same experience with debilitating depression and suicidal ideation, not even a flicker after one RTT session. It boggles my mind. It just disappeared. And my friend asked what I call the low moods I experience if I no longer call it PMDD. And I said, I just don't experience any very low moods anymore. So you can actually see a whole hour-long video interview with Rochelle on my YouTube channel. She actually went to the doctors and requested the official removal of PMDD and depression diagnoses from her medical records, and she just wakes up each morning feeling deeply connected to herself, feeling full of self-love. And that was a massive change for her. And, we do the scores before, and she'd scored a 1 for self-love, 1 out of 10. And then after that, she scored a 10. So you can see the power of transforming your subconscious beliefs, guys. It really is incredibly powerful. Now, I'm going to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel you're currently able to manage your emotional reactions, your triggers? If you score from 1 to 10, how would you score rage, for example? Oh, well, 65 is a gorgeous age to do this work, Julia. Absolutely. Yeah. Hi. Wow. Yeah. A 9.5, an 8, 6. Yeah. Yeah. 7, 6, 8. Yeah, you see, and this is it. They're always at the end of that higher end of the scale, and then they come right back down at the end. So if you significantly improved that and it was more like a 1, I wonder what kind of life you'd be able to co-create with this new subconscious blueprint, with this level of self-mastery and newfound freedom. Internal rage 10, expressed rage 2. Yeah, that's Nikki. It's important that you do something with that. 8. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The internalized rage is a bugger. Because, emotions tears that can't be expressed will cause organs to weep. That's an expression that we need to be mindful of. Quick to surface, but also quick, blocked becomes freeze. This is really common. So when we're rageful and we have these outbursts, we then shame ourselves because we start judging ourselves for the rage. And then we actually move ourselves, we reject ourselves so deeply when actually what we need to be doing is bringing love to it and compassion. We actually move ourselves into freeze response because of the shame over the outburst, sadly. Right, I've got to get through these slides a bit faster. So, from anxious to anchored. So, this is anxiety is really quite simple, right? If you think of a child who is dependent and helpless, and they rely on their adult caregiver to be their source to meet their needs, their source of love, their source of safety. When that doesn't happen, we start to believe that either we're not worthy of having our needs met, that the world is not safe, that we're not protected, that we're not supported. I'm not worthy of being cared for. I'm different. I don't belong. I'm not safe. I'm helpless. I'm powerless. I can't trust myself or life to keep me safe. I must be unlovable. I must be unlikable. These are the conclusions of a child. What other conclusion could they come to? They have to think of the adult caregiver as enough, as all-knowing, because they're the ones keeping everybody alive. So we have to make conclusion. It must be me. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. You might have experienced like sudden abandonment or unpredictable moods from your caregivers, moments of chaos. Your environment wasn't safe. You weren't attuned to. You weren't understood. It was an unpredictable environment. Maybe you were punished or shamed for asking for something you needed or wanted. And so the anxiety is acting as a protector part, making you hypervigilant, preparing you with the biology of courage to run from this danger. Because, what else could you possibly do? It's not safe. You're not protected. So this part that you acquired is protecting you because of those beliefs that you hold about yourself. We depend on these caregivers, but now as the adult, it's like this the work really for anxiety is like reconnection to source and really reprogramming. But I meet my needs now. Nobody can do this like I can. Nobody can understand me like I can. So it's a beautiful reconnection to self. Here's Nicole, who suffered terribly with anxiety. She had this constant guilt and psychoanalysis. She was always second guessing herself, always worrying. And she'd been sober for 4 years since she'd stopped drinking. The PMDD really came out. She realized she must have been masking it. So she would have done, when she came to me, she's like, I would do anything to feel better. She had a list of symptoms as long as her arm. Severely depressed for 2 weeks of the month. But she had these feelings of abandonment, right? Typical in anxiety, of being unlovable, constantly second guessing herself, no confidence to make decisions. And she said, it makes me leave relationships really quickly. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that. She just couldn't figure out what this was about. So we went to the root of this abandonment feeling. And she goes back to being 4 years old as this beautifully sensitive little girl who felt too loud. She felt she was living in this world where there was too much criticism, there was too much bossing, feeling like she had to conform to what they wanted to do. She had to behave. And just this belief that no one will like me if I'm me. I don't get to be myself. She felt like she was in a box. I can't say who I am or be who I am. I feel like I'm dying inside. This is what was coming up in hypnosis. And it was her dad yelling at her because she bumped into something. She didn't mean to bump into it. She just moved too fast, as little girls do. And then he's yelling at her saying, "You're always clumsy." She's believing, I'm just too difficult. I must stay quiet. I'm always a problem. I'm a problem. I'm a mistake. These are the beliefs. I'm a burden. These are her core beliefs. I'm a mistake. I don't belong. So there she had beliefs like, I'm a mistake. Horrible to think of these little girls believing that about them, but it's beautiful to be able to reconnect you to the truth. And then for the second session, really, because she'd moved herself through all of this with the first session, she wanted to understand why she had this feeling that why life was so hard for her, and why she had this money thing, like, why am I not receiving money abundantly? What's that all about? So she wanted to get curious about that. And then she went back to a scene of being 5, 6 years old, her parents fighting about money. And she concludes that her mum has no control over what she's allowed to spend. Women don't. Mum spends too much. She needs too much. And the beliefs are money makes people greedy. It's selfish to need things. We have the basics. Nothing else is needed. I should be happy with the basics. There you go. She was just manifesting the bare minimum, the basics. And then she went to another scene where other kids had all these branded things, and she wasn't allowed to have branded things. And she just made the belief, life is hard for me. Other kids have brands, everything they want, and I have to do without it because I'm different. I'm less than. I need to just suck it up. I need to be brave and just do without. Yeah. So there was another scene where she's running around playing tag outside, and it was just so good. But she just felt like, why can't most of my days be like this? I'm stuck doing something I don't want to do, and this is just not available to me. I'm trapped looking after my siblings. And so it was like, having fun, being joyous is not available to me. But these are really, really core beliefs that are running her life. So those are the results of Nicole. She not only eradicated the PMDD and the negative thinking, she actually decided, because remember, she couldn't make decisions. She was stuck in analysis paralysis. She actually sold and bought a new house in a different city. And she flourished in her new job and she was making more money than ever. And she said, RTT is like a video game cheat code. And then when I caught up with her 7 months later, she said, RTT has not only eradicated my PMDD and negative thinking, but I've been able to sell and buy a new house in a different city. I've been able to heal traumas from childhood that I didn't even know were there. And it's continuing to work magic in my life. My mind is calm, conscious, and finally at peace. I've flourished in my new job and I'm making more money than I ever have. I'm forever thankful and blessed to have worked with Chloe. So I'm going to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score anxiety? Yeah, 9, 8, yeah. So if you could increase your ability to remain anchored and peaceful, what positive impact would that have on your life? Are we committed to creating more internal safety and peace? Nine, 8, 5. There's lots of 9s and 8s. Okay. So you're definitely in the right place. Yeah. Okay. Wow. 10 for Louise. Okay, Adriana, good. Right. Now I want to talk about depression. As we saw earlier, depression is one of the freeze responses, and this is the ultimate survival mode. It would be so freeing. It'd be a game changer to be without these symptoms. This is the ultimate survival mode, freeze response. You know, this is the antelope playing dead after being chased by a lion and being captured. The threshold of flight response is reached and your body will send you into freeze response for the ultimate survival. So the core beliefs at the subconscious root of depression tend to be the ultimate rejection of self by nature, like I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm innately, there's something wrong with me, I'm a problem, I'm rubbish, I'm nothing. I'm bad comes up time and time and time again. Now, if you just think about it, if you have these core beliefs, how are you supposed to belong or be connected to anyone who wants to meet your needs if you are believing that you're wrong or bad, that you're just nothing? Like, how are you supposed to connect to anyone as a helpless dependent child? Like, it's really scary to have that belief. So your nervous system will shut you down. So things happened to you in your childhood that made you conclude that you were wrong. For example, I went to a scene where it's seemingly innocuous, you know, to anybody else maybe, but I went to a scene where I must have been around 7 or 8 years old. My sister was there, and my dad saying to my sister, "Oh, you're a bombshell. You could be an actress. You're, you know, all of this." And then he's saying to me, "You'll be a doctor or a lawyer." And I had many conscious memories of my dad saying this, but this scene in hypnosis gave me insight I'd never had before. Unconscious tears just rolled down my face because I had this realization of what's wrong with me if I have to climb that crazy, huge mountain and become one of those big, complicated things. Like, I don't even know how to do that. And I have to do that in order for him to love me, in order for me to be significant. Like, what must be wrong with me? I must be bad. Conclusion of a child. That's what I concluded. So you can see how significantly these old paradigm ways of parenting can impact a child, especially if you're a deep thinking, sensitive child. That's not always the case. Half the time, we go back to scenes where things that should never have happened. But, you know, either way, we get to take our power back and we get to change the meaning that we made about ourselves. We get to timestamp it into the amygdala so that it can no longer affect our reality. This is Jess. She had severe depression, also diagnosed with PTSD. She felt that she had repressed memories, repressed trauma. Actually, Jess doesn't even remember her childhood consciously. She came to me 3 years ago for PMDD and went through the standard protocol of that we do the 8 weeks, including 2 rounds of RCT and metacognitive psychology and all the other lessons we teach for self-mastery. But Jess unveiled suppressed memories at the root of the horrible, intrusive thoughts and the depression. And in those 2 hours, she took back her power. She rescued that little girl, and it changed. She changed the meaning that she made about herself in those horrendous scenes that I won't share. But she'd locked into the fact that she was wrong, she was bad, and this programming was at the root of these constant intrusive thoughts, at the root of the depression. And this is what she said: the depression, the fear, anxiety grew and grew so large, almost every day was a burden to me. I describe it as a dark cloud that followed me the moment I stepped out of bed. I didn't want to live anymore, and one day I actually saw the beauty in killing myself. After I realized this moment was too real, I became so scared of myself. I was at the lowest of PMDD, and I will never forget this. I experienced so many peaks and valleys during this program. I'll be very honest, it was very hard. I have learned, well, she revealed stuff that she didn't know about. It was really quite traumatic for her to find out. I've learned that as hard as the valleys were to visit, they were gifts showing me that healing is hard. But after the lesson, the peaks are the prize. The most beautiful experience I have ever had working with Chloe gave me my new life, one I'm now living. She actually says, if anyone asks her what the experience was like, she says, I experienced a complete rebirth, another chance to live. This is life. And every day I wake up, I'm so grateful. I would do this a million times over. The beauty of this work brings me to happy tears, and I will be forever grateful for this experience. This life is a gift. The difference now is I'm here to live it. Because she says she wouldn't be here without this work. So my question is, are you committed to reclaiming your life force? Because that is what healing depression is all about. Reclaiming your life force and moving towards a life where you are thriving, not just surviving. If you could significantly increase your experience of feeling alive and thriving, what positive changes would you be seeing in your life? I bet you can't even, not in your wildest dreams, I bet, because I surely couldn't have imagined what I am now living. I wonder how much access you currently have to joy, feelings of joy in your daily life, in those days leading up to your period. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a quick review of the big ideas. So we looked at, feel free and peace and joy and happiness. I'm loving reading your comments. I'm actually going to download them afterwards. So thank you. So let's review these big ideas that we've been talking about today. How beliefs shape your biology. The subconscious beliefs you formed in childhood are the invisible blueprint that shape your physiology and emotional responses. We explored how your hormones increase your sensitivity to past trauma, acting as this truth serum for any unresolved trauma imprints, and they're keeping the protector parts alive in your body. And we looked at the stress response system, how your innate stress responses are actually helping you prepare your body for the biology of courage to face this perceived danger. And how what's presenting is actually your body's way of protecting you as a result of what you learned from your past experiences. And then we saw that True freedom begins at a subconscious level. That's where the change happens. That's where we do the deep work and reset the nervous system. So what's been most valuable from this presentation so far? I hear you, Nikki. Yeah. Put it in the chat. What has been the most valuable and insightful thing about everything we've covered so far? Yeah, knowing about the beliefs. Interesting to see the pattern. Yeah, we need to stop hating on our hormones, Heather. The hormones, it's not the hormones' fault. Yeah, you feel hopeful. Good. Oh, I'm so happy that you all feel empowered towards what's possible for you. Yeah, good. Yay. Okay, so I hear you. I know that your current reality is that, you know, finding it difficult to feel any sort of joy or inner peace. That you're perhaps not where you want to be, not really the parent that you desire to be, or the partner at these times of the month. And this is the reality. You're hijacked by the thoughts and, you know, spend half the month recovering from the previous half of the month. This is really about understanding what your body has been trying to tell you so that you can actually heal it at the root. It's not just about symptom management. You were just meant for more as the beautiful, empathetic, sensitive being that you are. So I want you to just do a little visualization now. I want you to close your eyes and imagine 3 weeks from now, after making a bold decision to invest in yourself, you're waking up with hope because you know there's a path forward. You're excited about the life you get to create from this new blueprint. Anything is possible. And imagine yourself 3 months from now, you've time-stamped all those past traumas into the amygdala. Your body is in harmony. You are at peace. You have clarity. You've reshaped your nervous system. There's nothing you can't handle. And you're in control of your thoughts. You are the master of your mind. You have clarity. You feel calm, confident, in control, free from those same old ways of spiraling out of control. And now, I want you to see yourself in 12 months from now. You're in a completely different relationship with yourself. You understand your body. You've alchemized the pain of your past into purpose. Your life feels soulful, grounded, and peaceful. What type of woman do you see in that future version of you? How is she holding herself? How is she moving? How does she deal with life's challenges? What does she have more of inside? Deeper sense of acceptance, self-love. And I ask you, are you committed to becoming that version of you today? This isn't about symptom management. This is about understanding what your body's been trying to tell you so that you can heal it at the root. So just open your eyes. I love to do a little future self visualization. So if you are committed to being that person, the only thing stopping you now is the how. So the good news is that you don't have to do the trial and error. Hello, I'll put my teeth back in of different treatments. I'm going to share with you quickly how you can embody that version of you easier and faster than you ever thought, so that you can go from surviving each month to actually thriving. And that's exactly why I created my program. Now, this is not for everyone. Before I share what the next step is, I want to be completely honest with you because this isn't for everyone. If you're not ready to go deep, and take radical responsibility for your healing, then this probably isn't for you. It's not your fault what happened to you in your formative years, but it is now our responsibility to look at it and to transform the effect it is having on you. But if you're someone who knows deep down that there's more to this life that you've been living, if you're ready to break free from the cycles that have kept you playing small, stuck, symptom bound, then, you know, if you're willing to be the cycle breaker of your family, be the change maker, the trailblazer, then yeah. And if you're a self-aware woman ready to take ownership of her healing and step into her new identity, one that's aligned with her soul purpose and true potential, then this was actually created for you. And that next step is called Wounds into Wings. I created this because I saw far too many women being handed a label like PMDD or depression and then being told to just manage it with pills and coping strategies that just numbed them out and rendered them truly powerless, actually. And that is not our truth. I don't want that for anybody. So I created this because I know firsthand what it feels like to be hijacked by these horrendous symptoms month after month, thinking that you're broken or stuck, when in fact your body is just revealing where healing is still needed for you in order to expand into your true potential. So the promise of this program is that you'll finally get to the root, the subconscious root of the emotional wounds that are showing up cyclically like clockwork each month. We heal the subconscious wounds beneath the surface. So when life throws its grains of salt at you, its criticism, its stress, its emotional triggers, salt falls on stony ground because there's no longer any open wound for it to sting. We take care of those mutations in the subconscious belief system, the ones keeping your nervous system chronically activated and keeping you stuck in a loop of fight, flight, and freeze. And when we rewire those patterns, what used to show up as emotional chaos becomes clarity, calm, and personal power. And who wouldn't want that? So that's what Wounds into Wings is here to help you create. It's a transformational 8-week journey with me, designed to completely rewire your subconscious blueprint beneath your PMDD symptoms and hormonal chaos. So you can finally feel calm, confident, and free. So this program will fill up really, really fast because, as I said, we've had over 400 people register for this masterclass, and they can only take a very small number of people in a cohort at a time. So if you know in your heart that this is for you, act fast, because even though it says doors close in a week from now, they will close as soon as those spots are filled, and it will fill up at maximum capacity. Can only take on a limited number of women for each cohort. This is deep one-to-one work, and it's first come, first serve. So the doors will close a week from now, as soon as the spots are taken. This is what you get: 2 rounds of rapid transformational therapy, 6 weekly video lessons. You get a private Facebook group, 6 weekly group coaching calls, and then lifetime access to these lessons. So this is the one-to-one work where we meet for an hour, and I really get into your energy. Then the next day or 2 later, we go into the first rapid transformational therapy session to get to the root of the most debilitating symptom first. And then you'll go away with your personalized recording. You'll listen to that for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then we catch up again on a one-to-one. These are the video lessons. We do mindset work. We do positive psychology. The really powerful thing here is the metacognitive psychology and the polyvagal work. And this is all the conscious work to really supercharge the subconscious work we're doing, so you get a really full transformation over the 8 weeks. Now, the bonus number 1, you'll have private access to me on WhatsApp throughout the 8 weeks. So whether you're moving through a trigger or noticing a new pattern or just needing help integrating a breakthrough, I'll be right there in your pocket to help you extract the gold and keep you moving forward. Does that all make sense? Bonus 2, you're going to get weekly live Q&As, the group coaching, where you have the opportunity to get in the hot seat and be coached on a weekly basis. this is where a lot of healing happens. I love the group work as well. So we have the deep one-to-one work, and we also have the group work. And then you've got this private Facebook community where you'll be welcomed into the sisterhood, where you can share, connect, and receive support from others. And this group will really hold you in between our calls, remind you that you are supported, and it becomes a space of safety and celebration. And then we have this amazing bonus with Janine. Janine worked with me 3 years ago to free herself from PMDD. And guess what? She realized her purpose. And she is now a menstruality mentor and trauma-informed cycle coach. And she's going to give us 2 amazing masterclasses to really create this personalized cycle resource map. These teachings are beautifully gentle but life-changing, working with your cycle so that you can move from survival to a more intuitive, grounded, and empowered rhythm in your life. So that's a gorgeous bonus I'm super happy to have. These are some testimonials. And so this is the value. Let's quickly summarize everything you'll get when you join Wounds into Wings so that you can really feel the value of what's waiting for you inside. I'm not going to ask you to pay that €5,894, even though that's what the program is actually worth when you add it all up. I know what it feels like to be where you are, and I want this to be as accessible as possible for you. But let's just imagine that you did pay let's say $6,700, and you freed yourself and you absolutely transformed your subconscious blueprint and set yourself up for success in every aspect of your life. Would it be worth it? Would it be worth it if you could just hand over that money and just be given a new subconscious blueprint and feel this deep sense of peace and harmony? So your total investment today is actually $2,497. So that equates to about $2,836. There is a payment plan option, but if you choose to pay in full, you'll also receive priority scheduling for your RTT sessions, and of course, the peace of mind of securing your place at the lowest price. Elke is sharing the link as we speak in the link in the comment. Yes, the link is not working everywhere in the world, apparently, because the web designer is having trouble, but the other one she's shared is absolutely working. Yeah, we'll work on that in the next day or two. So the payment plan option is a deposit today of $997, followed by 4 monthly payments, $497, if that makes it somewhat easier for you. There is a fast acting bonus for the first 5 of you to sign up, and that is the extra power hour of coaching worth another €250. Because I always want to honor the women who take fast action. That's me. When I know in my body, when I feel in my body that something is for me, I act fast. I know not everybody does, but yeah, I just thought be cool to honor the fast actors with that. You can use that session either within the program, or you've got until the end of the year to have that amazing life coaching session or trauma-informed coaching session. So that's my gift to those of you who are ready to say yes. The doors will close next Saturday, and as I said, these spots will fill up. So the doors may close before that if we are at our maximum capacity. We begin on the 26th of April. You'll start to be able to book your sessions. And just head over to my website, the Wounds into Wings page, because apparently woundsintowings.com is only working on mobile, I heard. So if you choose to pay in full, you'll also receive the priority RTT scheduling. You get first pick of session times and dive straight in. So you've heard the concepts, you've felt the truth in your body, and now you have the choice. You can go back to navigating the same cycles each month, feeling like a passenger in your life, or you can step into this beautiful container and begin a new story with me. You are not broken. You are not too much. Your sensitivity is your superpower. And this program will show you how to own it, integrate it, and finally become the version of you that your symptoms have been asking you to meet. So if your body is saying yes, trust that. I will see you inside of Wounds into Wings. And just so you know, this version of Wounds into Wings with the weekly group coaching and real-time community won't be running until the end, won't be running again until the end of the year. So if you know this work is for you, and you feel it in your body and your soul is pulling you towards it, now is your chance to join us and begin your healing journey and take action and do your best to find the right page. As we are doing our best. Right, before we go into the hypnosis, I will take some questions. If anybody has any questions, just type them in. The standard questions I can put out there while you guys are thinking, what if I don't have time for the program? Well, most women who joined in the past were already stretched thin, and that's exactly why they joined. So the video lessons are short and designed to meet you in your busy schedule for you to watch in your own time. You have lifetime access to those, and they are short, bite-sized videos for you to really apply these really powerful tools, simple tools. So you're probably already losing hours and weeks with the symptoms and the spirals. So any other questions? I think go on, Lisa has a question. Yeah, I will send out the recording tomorrow. So you'll get the recording of the replay. Adriana said, why 2 hypnosis sessions? That's a good question. So I like to move people out of the freeze response symptoms. I think 2 is just perfect. I like to first move people out of freeze response, and then we see what's left. In a very there's a small portion who go, like 2% will go, oh, I don't know what to work on now. I feel fine. And so we'll work on something else like money blocks or whatever. But yeah, so 2 hypnosis sessions. I think that it's just perfect for getting you out of the freeze response and the fight or flight responses. Because remember, each session we are going back. You get to choose, whatever's most pertinent to you. Right, this session, the first session, I want to go to the root cause of this depression. Well, we don't know what it's going to clear, because quite often, not only does the depression go, but a lot of the other things go too, the other symptoms. So it's then we wait until 30 days to go, okay, so what's left? Now what's left? What are we going to work on for the next session? For some people, the fight or flight symptoms get louder, which is a really good thing, because you're moving from immobilized freeze response and you're mobilizing energy into fight or flight. So it's also a good thing. Lisa, yes, in hypnosis. In hypnosis, we do inner child work, parts therapy, which is also very powerful, but always with hypnotic brain states. Because of course the information is unconscious. For some people, they get memories they hadn't even remembered. Some people go back to the womb. Okay. Well, you can email me with any questions. So I have to give you a disclaimer for the hypnosis. If you have a history of epilepsy or seizures, I'm sorry, but this session is not suitable for you. And of course, please don't participate in the hypnosis if you are currently driving or operating machinery or in water. Save this experience for when you're somewhere safe and still. Many of us grew up with the very unhelpful ideas about hypnosis because we grew up watching stage hypnotists. And maybe you've seen hypnotists making people bark like dogs or cluck like chickens. And part of you is wondering, am I going to lose control? Let me reassure you, this is nothing like that. Hypnosis is a natural brain state that you go in and out of every day. It's a state that you're in just before you fall asleep. It's a state that you're in when you're driving on autopilot and you're thinking about something else, or when you're deeply immersed in a book or a daydream. You will be fully aware, fully in control. Actually, you'll be more aware of your thoughts and your body than usual. You'll feel much like you would in meditation, just a little softer, a little quieter. And yeah, all you need to do is allow yourself to receive. So just let your body settle, and I'm going to show you a trick to induce. I'm actually going to stop sharing. I'm going to show you a trick to induce the alpha brain state, the hypnotic brain state, a little faster. So I will ask you, when I do the induction, I'm going to ask you to roll your eyes up like that. You don't need to tilt your head back. You just need to roll your eyes up, because that blinking is REM. That is, you may or may not feel that. That's REM, that's alpha brain state. And I will ask you to take 3 breaths. And on the 3rd exhale, you just close your eyelids down and forget all about your eyeballs. Okay, so can everyone do that? Because that's going to help you get into the alpha brain state quickly. And you don't need to do that just yet, but that's great. That's what you need to do when I guide you through the induction. So let's get started. So just make yourself comfortable. Look up as high as you possibly can. Just look up as if you're trying to look into your own eyebrows, keeping your eyes glued to a real or imagined spot overhead. Just breathe in and out. Take another deep breath in. Each time you blink, that's hypnosis coming upon you, and let that breath go. And just one final time, breathe in, keeping your eyeballs right up, keeping your eyeballs up as you exhale. Just close your eyelids right down, all the way down. As your eyelids shut down, the muscles and nerves in and around your eyes are becoming heavy, droopy, drowsy. Your eyelids are starting to feel right now as if they've been glued shut, sealed shut, locked tight. And you'll soon find that the harder you try to open your eyes, the more they feel glued shut, sealed shut, locked tight. Now I want you to just drop your chin a fraction so you really get that looking down sensation that you might feel as you look over a balcony or down a flight of stairs. And as I count backwards, you're going to see your feet, hear your feet, feel your feet treading each step. You're looking down 10 steps now to the most relaxing place of your dreams, and you see yourself moving on to step 10 as each muscle, every nerve turns loose, lets loose, and you go deeper. You're taking step 9. You can see your feet making contact with each step as you go deeper. You're taking step 8. You can hear your feet making contact with each step as you go to an even deeper level. You're taking step 7, going deeper and deeper with every heartbeat. You're taking step 6 as each sound and noise and movement around you carries you deeper and further into hypnosis. You're taking step 5 and 4, each muscle, every nerve turns loose, lets loose, and you're going deeper into an awareness of yourself. You're going deeper into your own internal state. You're taking step 3 now, just drift deeper. You're taking step 2, just go deeper. You're taking step 1 now, just go deeper, drift deeper, just sleep deeper. And every time I click my fingers and say the word deeper, you're just becoming more and more relaxed. Just go deeper, drift deeper, sink deeper. And as you go deeper into an absolutely relaxed state, you are listening and responding easily, effortlessly, perfectly, exactly the way you are. You don't need to make anything happen. You just let it happen. You understand that hypnosis is a sleep of the nervous system. It's not about being asleep, it's about being suggestible. And I'm going to show you right now how incredibly suggestible you are. I'm going to tell you that your eyes are glued shut, sealed shut, locked tight. So much so that just the thought of opening them is something you really can't be bothered to do. Your eyes are sealed shut, fused shut, locked together. Just try to open your eyes, find they are locked shut, go deeper. Try to open your eyes, find they are sealed tight, go deeper. And just one more time, try to open your eyes, find they are glued together, go deeper and deeper and deeper. That's perfect. You're responding absolutely perfectly, exactly as I knew you would, because you're incredibly suggestible. And because you're incredibly suggestible, you've picked up beliefs about yourself in your younger years, in your formative years. And you're going back now on the count of 5 to a childhood home, a home you lived in when you were between the ages of 5 and 7. And you're walking through that door as your adult self, and you're moving towards that bedroom where you find that little girl sitting on the bed. And you go in there and you sit next to that little girl and you ask her how she is, and you connect to how she feels about herself. And you pick her up in your arms, feeling this deep sense of belonging, this deep sense of security and safety, because nobody can understand this little girl like you can. She's home. She feels understood. She feels connected. She feels this deep sense of belonging, knowing that her needs are met because she's so deeply understood. And as you wrap your arms around yourself, feeling this deep sense of freedom now, as you have this sense of coming home, knowing that you are enough, you always were enough, you always will be enough, you were born enough, you were meant to be here. You might have come through your parents, but you came from something much greater. You came from the universe. You were meant to be here. You are more than enough. You are loved. You are lovable. You are likable. And you notice that little girl, how precious she is, how innocent she is. How could she ever think that she was not enough, that there was anything wrong with her? She's a precious, lovable child. And you meet her needs now. You validate you. You validate your feelings. You fill yourself up with love. You meet your needs, and nobody can do this like you can. You feel loved because you fill yourself up with love. You feel understood because you understand yourself deeply. You feel lovable. You feel there's nothing you need to do or be to be lovable. You were born lovable. You live in a different world now. You live in a world of choice. And you choose to do wonderful things for you because you are worthy of having your needs met. You are worthy of following your heart's desire. You are worthy of having everything you desire now. You make wonderful choices for you. Nobody can make those choices like you can. You validate you. You understand yourself. And you feel this deep sense of belonging, this deep sense of security about yourself, feeling that you are meant to be here. You are meant for more. You are more than enough. You are lovable. You are a beautiful, powerful woman. You meet your own needs now. You are free from that past. You meet your own needs now. You give yourself permission to be more of you, knowing and feeling that your sensitivity is your superpower. You're a beautiful, empathetic, intuitive woman. The sky is not even the limit for you. You feel this deep sense of validation, of understanding, because you understand yourself. You validate yourself. And you found freedom to be you, knowing that it's safe to be you. It's safe to express yourself. It's safe to speak up. You have a voice. What you want matters. You matter. You feel significant because you are significant to you. That little girl is the most significant thing in the world to you. She lives with you now. Together, you are powerful. Together, you are unstoppable. So feeling more than enough, feeling totally lovable. On the count of 5, you can start to become aware of the room around you. On the count of 4, you can take a deep breath in. On the count of 3, you can let that breath go. On the count of 3 and 2, you can wiggle your fingers and toes. And on the count of 1, when you're ready, feeling totally lovable, feeling full of self-love, just open your eyes. How do you feel?